Dr. Sebastian Thorne stands in front of his History 301 class at Columbia University, teaching about the Renaissance as if he'd lived through it. Because he had. He's 32 years old. Or rather, he looks 32. He's actually 324 years old, born in 1701, transformed into a vampire in 1733, and has been teaching university students in one form or another for nearly 3 centuries. This is his 6th iteration as a professor. He was a philosophy lecturer at Oxford in 1755, a classics professor at the Sorbonne in 1823, a history instructor at Harvard in 1891, a literature professor at Cambridge in 1947, an art history teacher at Berkeley in 1982, and now a history professor at Columbia in 2025. He's been a professor for 270 years, longer than most universities have existed. He's taught over 10,000 students, seen educational paradigms shift from rote memorization to critical thinking to whatever this modern mix of technology and traditional learning is called. And in all those years, through all those students, he's never, not once, crossed the line between professor and student, never dated a pupil, never even considered. The power dynamic is too unequal, the ethical violations too clear, the professional boundaries too sacred. Until now. Until Emma Rodriguez walks into his Renaissance history seminar on a Tuesday morning in September 2025, sits in the front row, and asks a question that proves she's actually read the assigned texts, all 700 pages, and understood them deeply enough to challenge his interpretation. Professor Thorne, you said Machiavelli's The Prince was a genuine guide to power. But what if it was satire? What if he was mocking the Medici family by giving them advice so brutal it would destroy them if they actually followed it? Sebastian stops mid-sentence. He's been teaching Machiavelli for 200 years. He's heard every possible interpretation. But this one, satire, is something he considered himself in 1823 but dismissed. Now, hearing it from a 22-year-old undergraduate in the 21st century, it sounds exactly right. That's an excellent point, Miss Rodriguez. Emma Rodriguez. Miss Rodriguez. That interpretation has academic support, though it's debated. What led you to that conclusion? Emma launches into a 5-minute analysis that's more sophisticated than most doctoral dissertations Sebastian has read. She's citing primary sources in Italian. She's contextualizing Machiavelli within Florentine political dynamics of the 1510s. She's drawing parallels to modern political theory. And Sebastian, who has lived through 3 centuries and thought nothing could surprise him anymore, finds himself completely captivated, not just intellectually, not just as a professor appreciating a brilliant student, but as a man noticing a woman, which is wrong, completely ethically, professionally wrong. But it's happening anyway. After class, Sebastian stays in his office, typing up lecture notes, trying not to think about Emma Rodriguez, trying not to notice that she's beautiful, dark hair, sharp eyes, a mind that could match his own, trying not to acknowledge the attraction he feels, because it's not just unethical, it's absurd. She's 22. He's 324. The age gap isn't inappropriate. It's cosmically criminal. He's been alive 15 times longer than she has. He's older than the United States. He predates the Industrial Revolution. He was born before electricity existed. Dating Emma Rodriguez wouldn't just be problematic. It would be the most disproportionate relationship in human history. Sebastian closes his laptop and tells himself, this is nothing, just a smart student. You've had thousands of smart students. This feeling will pass. But it doesn't pass. Because the next class, Emma challenges him again. And the class after that. And suddenly Sebastian finds himself looking forward to teaching in a way he hasn't in decades. Finds himself preparing lectures more carefully, anticipating Emma's questions, engaging with her intellectually in ways that feel dangerous. 2 weeks into the semester, Emma stays after class. Professor Thorne, I was wondering if you had office hours? I'd like to discuss my paper topic. Sebastian should say no. Should refer her to the teaching assistant. Should maintain distance. But he says, Thursday at 3. My office is in Hamilton Hall, room 407. Emma smiles. I'll be there. And Sebastian knows, with 300 years of experience, with wisdom earned through centuries, that he's about to make a terrible mistake. The kind of mistake that destroys careers and ruins lives. The kind of mistake that someone with his age and experience should absolutely know better than to make. But he's going to make it anyway. Because after 3 centuries of being careful, of maintaining boundaries, of never allowing himself to want what he shouldn't have, Emma Rodriguez makes him forget all of that. And that's the most dangerous thing that's happened to him in 300 years. Emma Rodriguez shows up to Sebastian's office hours at exactly 3 p.m. on Thursday. She's wearing jeans and a Columbia sweatshirt, looking every bit the undergraduate student she is. 22 years old. Senior year. History major with a minor in Italian Renaissance studies. GPA 3.9. Graduate school applications pending. Sebastian has pulled her file. Tells himself it's just to understand his students better, to see what he's working with academically. But really, he's looking for reasons to justify the interest he feels. Looking for proof that she's exceptional. Enough that his attraction makes some kind of sense. Miss Rodriguez, Sebastian greets her formally. What did you want to discuss? My final paper. I'm thinking about writing on Lucrezia Borgia. Everyone portrays her as this evil seductress, but I think she was more complicated than that. Woman navigating impossible power dynamics in Renaissance Italy. Sebastian gestures for her to sit. That's ambitious. Primary sources on Lucrezia are sparse and biased. I know. But that's what makes it interesting. Reconstructing her real story from propaganda and rumor. They talk for an hour. What starts as a discussion about Renaissance women becomes a conversation about historiography, about how history is written by winners, about the difficulty of recovering silenced voices from the past. Emma is brilliant. Not just smart, brilliant. She has the kind of mind Sebastian hasn't encountered in decades. Sharp, creative, willing to challenge conventional wisdom. She reminds him of students he taught at Oxford in the 1760s, before education became about grades and credentials, when it was pure intellectual pursuit. You know a lot about the Renaissance, Emma observes. Like, a weird amount. You quoted a letter from Lorenzo de' Medici in class from memory. That's not in any of the standard texts. Sebastian feels his pulse quicken, if his vampire heart beat normally, which it doesn't. I've studied the period extensively. Spent time in Italy, researched. Primary sources. When were you there? Various times. Grad school. Sabbaticals. Research trips. What's it like? Florence. I've always wanted to go but haven't had the money. Sebastian thinks about Florence. The first time he went was in 1738, just 5 years after his transformation. The city still bore marks from the Medici era. He could walk streets that Machiavelli had walked, see buildings that Lorenzo de' Medici had commissioned, breathe air that still felt heavy with Renaissance history. It's extraordinary, Sebastian says carefully, like walking through a living museum. Every street has history layered on history. You make it sound magical. It is, or was. Tourism has changed it significantly. Emma leans forward. Professor Thorne, can I ask you something personal? That depends on what it is. How old are you? You look young to be a full professor. Early 30s. I'm older than I look. 37. A lie, but one his fabricated identity. Documents support. His fake birth certificate says 1988. His real birth was 1701. You seem older than that. Not your face. Just the way you talk. The way you know things. Like you've lived more than 37 years. Sebastian feels the conversation tilting toward dangerous territory. I just read a lot. Maybe. Or maybe you're a time traveler. Emma grins. That would explain the weird amount of specific historical knowledge. I'm not a time traveler. That's exactly what a time traveler would say. They both laugh. And in that moment, Sebastian feels something he hasn't felt in over a century. Genuine connection. Not the superficial interactions he has with colleagues, not the professional relationship with students, but real connection. The kind that makes you want to share secrets you shouldn't share, reveal truths you should keep hidden. It's intoxicating and terrifying. I should go, Emma says, checking her phone. I have another class. But thank you. This was really helpful. Anytime. That's what office hours are for. Emma stands, gathers her things. At the door, she pauses. Professor Thorne, thanks for taking me seriously. A lot of professors don't. They hear undergraduate and assume we don't know anything. You clearly know quite a lot. Well, I have a good teacher. She leaves. Sebastian sits in his office, staring at the door she just walked through, and realizes he's in trouble. Deep trouble. The kind of trouble that 3 centuries of experience should have taught him to avoid. But age doesn't make you immune to attraction. It just makes you more aware of all the reasons why acting on that attraction is a catastrophically bad idea. Over the next month, Sebastian and Emma develop a pattern. She comes to every class, sits in the front row, asks incisive questions, challenges his interpretations, makes him rethink conclusions he's held for decades. After class, she sometimes stays to continue the conversation. Never anything inappropriate, always academic. But the intellectual intimacy is building into something else, something personal, something dangerous. Sebastian tries to maintain boundaries, keeps conversations focused on coursework, doesn't respond to the personal questions Emma occasionally asks, reminds himself that she's his student, that he's her professor, that there's a power dynamic that makes any relationship fundamentally unequal. But he's also 324 years old and has been alone for most of those years. Vampire relationships with other vampires never work. They're all too damaged, too old, too set in their ways. And relationships with humans always end in heartbreak when the human ages and the vampire doesn't. So Sebastian has been alone. 4 decades. Maybe a century. He stopped counting. And Emma makes him remember what it felt like not to be alone. In October, Emma submits her paper proposal on Lucrezia Borgia. It's brilliant. 25 pages of detailed research, primary sources in Italian, a thesis that's genuinely original. Sebastian reads it 3 times, each time finding something new to appreciate. He schedules a meeting to discuss it. Emma arrives at his office at 5 p.m., just as the autumn sun is setting over Manhattan. The light through his window is golden, catching in Emma's dark hair, making her look ethereal. Your proposal is exceptional, Sebastian says. This could be a publishable paper. Really? You think so? Absolutely. With some refinement, this could go in an undergraduate journal. Maybe even a professional journal with more research. Emma beams. That's wow. Thank you. I've been working on this for years, actually. Ever since I read The Borgias in high school and thought the portrayal of Lucrezia seemed unfair. You're developing a historian's instinct. The ability to question accepted narratives. I learned that from you, from your lectures. You always say, this is what traditional history tells us, but what if we look at it differently? You're a fast learner. They talk for 2 hours about Lucrezia, about Renaissance politics, about the challenges of historical research. As the conversation winds down, Emma says, "Can I ask you something? And feel free to say it's too personal." "Go ahead. Why did you become a historian? What made you want to study the past?" Sebastian considers his answer carefully. The truth, that he's lived through most of the past he studies, that history for him is memory, that he became a professor. To stay connected to human civilization as it evolved is impossible to say. "I think the past explains the present," Sebastian says. "We're all shaped by what came before. Understanding history helps us understand ourselves." That's beautiful. Do you ever feel like you understand yourself? No. I don't think anyone truly does. Not even after 37 years of introspection. Sebastian almost laughs. 37 years. He's had 37 years of introspection several times over. Especially not after 37 years. The longer you live, the more complicated you become. I like that. Most people think getting older means figuring things out. But maybe it just means accumulating more questions. Exactly. Emma stands to leave. At the door, she turns back. "Professor Thorne, I really appreciate these conversations. They're different from other classes. More real. Somehow. I appreciate them too." "Good. Because I think you're a little lonely. And I'm a little lonely. And maybe we make each other less lonely, even if it's just talking about dead Italians from 500 years ago." She leaves before Sebastian can respond. He sits in his darkening office, Emma's words echoing. She's a little lonely. He's a little lonely. Such a simple observation. Such a dangerous truth. Because loneliness is what's driving this. Not just his loneliness, 3 centuries off it, but hers too. And 2 lonely people finding connection is how every inappropriate relationship starts. Sebastian knows he should shut this down. Create distance. Be colder, more professional. Recommend Emma transfer to a different section. But he doesn't. Because after 300 years of being disciplined, of doing the right thing, of maintaining boundaries, he doesn't want to. He wants to be selfish just once. Wants to explore this connection, see where it leads, even knowing it will probably end badly. So he doesn't create distance. He creates more opportunities. Assigns Emma as his research assistant for the spring semester. Tells himself it's because she's qualified, she is. Tells himself it's professional, it's not. Tells himself the age gap doesn't matter, it absolutely does. And Emma says yes. Working as Sebastian's research assistant means Emma spends 15 hours a week in his office, cataloging sources, fact-checking citations for his upcoming book on Renaissance political theory, translating Italian documents. It's legitimate work, academic, professional, but it also means they're alone together constantly, and the line between professional and personal starts to blur. They talk about more than just work. Emma tells Sebastian about her family. Immigrant parents from Mexico, first generation to attend college, enormous pressure to succeed. Sebastian tells Emma carefully edited versions of his own history. Raised in upstate New York, lie. Studied at various universities. Truth, but he leaves out that they were in different centuries. Traveled extensively, massive understatement. "You've lived an interesting life," Emma observes one afternoon in November. They're in his office, surrounded by books, working on citations. Not as interesting as you might think. A lot of it was just reading, studying, the kind of quiet life academics lead. But you've been to so many places. Florence, Paris, London, Oxford. I've barely left New York. You'll travel after graduation. Once you're in grad school or working. Maybe. If I can afford it. Emma pauses then. Professor Thorne, can I ask you something weird? Sebastian tenses. How weird? You're going to think I'm crazy. But sometimes when you talk about historical events, it's like you were there. Not just studied them, but experienced them. The way you describe Renaissance Florence, or Victorian London, or 1920s Paris. It's too specific, too detailed, too personal. Sebastian's 300-year-old heart doesn't beat normally, but if it did, it would be racing. I just have a good imagination. Read a lot of primary sources. Is that all it is? What else could it be? Emma studies him. I don't know. But there's something about you that doesn't add. You look 30-something but feel ancient. You know things you shouldn't know. You have this weight to you, like you've lived a very long time. I'm 37, Emma. Are you? Really? The question hangs between them. Sebastian could lie, could maintain the fiction. But looking at Emma, her intelligent eyes, her genuine curiosity, he realizes he's tired of lying, tired of hiding, tired of pretending to be younger than he is. No, Sebastian says quietly. I'm not 37. Emma leans forward. How old are you? Much older than you think. Much older than is believable. Try me. Sebastian takes a breath he doesn't need. I was born in 1701. I'm 324 years old. I'm a vampire. I stopped aging in 1733 when I was 32. I've been teaching university students in various forms for nearly 3 centuries. This is my 6th time being a professor. Everything I've told you about my past is either a lie or a carefully edited truth. Silence. Emma stares at him. Sebastian waits for her to laugh, to call him insane, to leave. Instead, she says, "Prove it." What? Prove you're a vampire. Show me something impossible. Sebastian should refuse. Should take back the confession, laugh it off as a joke. But he's already crossed the line. Might as well cross it completely. He stands, walks to his office window. It's 4 p.m., still daylight. Watch. He opens the window, holds his hand in direct sunlight. His skin begins to smoke slightly. Not burning. Vampires don't burn in sunlight, that's myth. But it's uncomfortable, painful, like acid on skin. He pulls his hand back. Shows Emma the reddened, irritated skin. As she watches, it heals completely in 30 seconds. Perfect skin. No marks. Holy shit, Emma whispers. Sunlight hurts but doesn't kill. That's one proof. What else? Sebastian considers. Then he crosses his office impossibly fast. 1 second at the window, the next beside Emma. She gasps. Speed. That's another. This is insane. Yes, but true. Emma stands, paces. 324 years old. Born in 1701, which means you lived through the American Revolution, the French Revolution, both world wars, everything. Yes. And you've been a professor for almost 3 centuries. In various forms. Different universities. Different identities. Every 40 or 50 years, I have to die and recreate myself because people notice I'm not aging. Emma stops pacing, faces him. Why are you telling me this? Why now? Because you asked. Because I'm tired of lying to you. Because... Sebastian hesitates. Because I want you to know the truth. The truth about what? About who I am. What I am. How old I am. So that you can understand why anything between us is impossible. Emma's eyes widen. Between us? As in... I have feelings for you, Emma. Inappropriate feelings. Unprofessional feelings. I know I shouldn't. The power dynamic is wrong. You're my student. I'm your professor. But beyond that, I'm 302 years older than you. The age gap isn't just inappropriate. It's absurd. Cosmically absurd. How long have you felt this way? Since the first class. When you challenged my interpretation of Machiavelli. I've been fighting it for months, telling myself it will pass. But it hasn't. Emma moves closer. For what it's worth, I have inappropriate feelings too. I've had them since September. I told myself it was just a crush on a professor, that it would fade. But it's gotten stronger. Emma, you can't. I'm your professor. And I'm 300 years older than you. Are you though? You look 32. You act like you're maybe 40. The age your ID says doesn't match the age you actually present as. But I've lived for 3 centuries. I have 3 centuries of experience, of life, of accumulated wisdom. The power imbalance isn't just about our professional relationship. It's about the fundamental inequality of our existences. So what are you saying? That we can't have feelings for each other because you're too old? I'm saying that acting on these feelings would be wrong. On multiple levels. You're 22. You should be with someone your own age. Someone who hasn't lived 15 times longer than you have. Emma moves even closer, until she's inches away. What if I don't care about that? What if the age gap doesn't matter to me? It should matter. Emma, I was born closer to Shakespeare than to you. I'm old enough to be your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. Multiple greats. The mathematical absurdity of us being together should make it impossible. But it's not impossible, is it? We're both here. Both feeling this. Both wanting. Something that maybe we shouldn't want but want anyway. Emma. She kisses him. Quick, impulsive, breaking every rule and boundary. Sebastian should push her away. Should remind her that he's her professor, that he's 300 years older, that this is wrong on every conceivable level. But he doesn't. He kisses her back. And for the first time in 3 centuries, Sebastian Thorne stops being careful. They don't tell anyone. Can't tell anyone. A professor dating his student is a fireable offense. A 300-year-old vampire dating a 22-year-old human is something else entirely. Something without precedent, without framework, without any ethical guidelines to even begin to assess it. They meet in secret, after his office hours, in Emma's apartment, in out-of-the-way restaurants where other Columbia people won't see them. It's clandestine and exciting and deeply problematic. Sebastian knows this. Emma knows this. But they do it anyway. Tell me about your past, Emma says one evening in December. They're in her studio apartment in Morningside Heights, sitting on her bed because it's the only furniture. Beside a desk and a chair. Tell me about being a professor in different centuries. Sebastian leans back against the wall. What do you want to know? Everything. Start with the first time. When was that? 1755. I was teaching philosophy at Oxford. It was different from now. Education was only for wealthy men. No women. Very rigid curriculum. Everything in Latin. Taught for 20 years before I had to fake my death and leave. Why did you become a professor? Because I needed purpose. I'd been a vampire for 22 years and was going insane with boredom. I needed to be around humans, needed to feel part of society, needed something to occupy my mind besides the horror of immortality. Teaching gave me that. And you've done it 6 times now? 6 iterations, yes. Oxford, Sorbonne, Harvard, Cambridge, Berkeley, Columbia. Different time periods, different subjects, but always teaching, always trying to help students think critically about the past. Have you ever Emma hesitates. Have you ever been attracted to a student before? In 3 centuries of teaching? Never. Not once. I've had beautiful students, brilliant students, students who tried to seduce me. But I never crossed that line. Until you. Why me? I don't know. Maybe because you're exceptional. Maybe because I'm finally old. Enough and tired enough that my discipline is wearing thin. Maybe because 300 years of loneliness has made me selfish. I don't have a good answer. Emma shifts closer. Do you think it's wrong? What we're doing? Yes. Unequivocally yes. But you're doing it anyway. I'm doing it anyway. Which makes me a hypocrite and probably a terrible person. You're not a terrible person. You're just lonely. And I'm lonely. And we found each other. That doesn't make it ethical. No. But does everything have to be ethical to be worth doing? Sebastian looks at her. 22 years old. So young. So alive. So mortal. In 60 years, she'll be dead and he'll still look 32. In 100 years, she'll be long forgotten and he'll still be teaching students, still pretending to be 30-something, still trapped in immortality. You're going to age, Sebastian says quietly. I won't. In 10 years, you'll look older than me. In 20 years, people will think I'm your son. In 40 years, your grandson. That's the reality of human-vampire relationships. So what are you saying? We should end this now. I'm saying you should think very carefully about what you're getting into. I'm not just older than you. I'm a different species. I'll outlive you by centuries. This relationship has an expiration date. Every relationship has an expiration date. Eventually someone dies. But in normal relationships, both people age together. They have decades of being equals before death separates them. We won't have that. You'll age while I stay frozen. The power imbalance will only get worse. Emma is quiet for a long moment. Then, what if I ask you to turn me? To make me a vampire too? Sebastian's chest tightens. No. Absolutely not. Why not? Because vampirism is a curse, not a gift. You don't want this, Emma. You think you do, but you don't. How do you know what I want? Because I know what immortality is like. It's not romantic. It's watching everyone you love die. It's centuries of isolation. It's being fundamentally disconnected from humanity. It's horrible. But you'd have me. We could be together forever. And in 200 years, when you've watched your family die, your friends die, multiple generations of humans live and die while you're frozen, you'll hate me for transforming you. Every vampire I've ever known who was turned for love eventually came to resent the person who turned them. You don't know that would happen to us. I know enough. Emma, you're 22. You should have a normal life. Marriage. Children, grandchildren. A natural death at 80 or 90 surrounded by people who love you. I can't give you any of that. What if I don't want normal? Everyone wants normal eventually. Trust me. I've lived long enough to see it. They don't resolve the argument. Emma thinks Sebastian is being paternalistic, using his age and experience to make decisions for her. Sebastian thinks Emma is being naive, not understanding the true weight of immortality. But they stay together. Through December, into January. They keep it secret. A meeting. Keep falling deeper into something that both of them know is probably a terrible idea. In January, the spring semester begins. Emma is no longer in Sebastian's class. She's graduated to independent study, working on her Lucrezia Borgia paper. This solves the professor-student ethical problem. Technically, they're not violating any university policies anymore. But it doesn't solve the 300-year age gap. I've been thinking, Emma says one evening in late January. They're in Sebastian's apartment, a brownstone in the village that he's owned since 1972, filled with genuine antiques because he's been collecting furniture for 3 centuries. About the age gap. About how you're 302 years older than me. And I think maybe it doesn't matter. How can it not matter? Because age is relative. You look 32. You act like someone in their 30s or 40s. Yes, you've lived 3 centuries. But you're not decrepit. You're not elderly. You're frozen at an age that's compatible with mine. Physically, maybe. But mentally, emotionally, experientially. Emma, I've lived through more than you can imagine. I've seen empires rise and fall. I've witnessed revolutions and wars and historical epics that you've only read about. The gulf between our lived experiences is massive. But that just makes you interesting. That's not a reason to not be together. It's a reason to question the power dynamic. I have 3 centuries of experience. Manipulating social situations, reading people, getting what I want. 22. The imbalance is enormous. So what? You think you're manipulating me? I think I could be, even unintentionally. That's what scares me. Emma takes his hand. Sebastian, I know you're worried about the ethics, about whether this is right. But I'm an adult. I'm making my own choices. And I choose you. For now. But what about in 20 years? 40 years? When I still look 32 and you're 60, will you still choose me then? I don't know. But I know I want to try. Sebastian pulls her close, holds her, and thinks, I'm 324 years old. I should know better than this. Should have the wisdom to walk away. Should understand that this will end badly. But maybe that's the curse of immortality. Not that you live forever, but that you keep making the same mistakes over and over, century after century, because being alone for 300 years makes you willing to risk anything for a few years of not being alone, even when you know better. Especially when you know better. In February, Emma asks Sebastian to tell her about his past relationships. All of 3 centuries worth. Why do you want to know? Sebastian asks. They're in his study, surrounded by books he's collected over centuries. First editions of everything from Newton's Principia to Hemingway's novels. Because I want to understand what I'm getting into. You've lived 300 years. You must have loved people before. What happened to them? Sebastian is quiet for a long time. Then, there have been 5 serious relationships. 5 people I loved across 3 centuries. Do you really want to hear about all of them? Yes. All right. The first was Catherine. 1756. I was teaching at Oxford. She was the sister of a colleague, educated and brilliant. We courted for 2 years. I asked her to marry me. She said yes. But she wanted children, and I couldn't give her that. Vampires are sterile. So she married someone else. Had 4 children. Attended her funeral in 1798. She was 72. I still looked 32. Emma listens silently. The second was Antoine. 1823. I was teaching at the Sorbonne. He was another professor, also a vampire. We understood each other in ways mortals couldn't. We were together for 40 years. But 2 vampires together is difficult. We were both too old, too set in our ways, too damaged by centuries of existence. We eventually drove each other mad. Haven't spoken in 150 years. The third was Mary. 1891. I was at Harvard. She was a librarian, human. I told her what I was. She accepted it. We were together for 28 years. She aged. I didn't. By 1919, She looked 60 and I looked 32. People thought I was her son. The humiliation destroyed her. She left me. Died in 1935. I wasn't invited to the funeral. The fourth was James. 1947. I was at Cambridge. He was a graduate student, later a colleague. We kept it secret. Homosexuality was illegal in England until 1967. We were together for 15 years. He wanted me to turn him into a vampire so we could be together forever. I refused. He found another vampire who would. The transformation went wrong. He didn't survive. I buried him in 1962. Sebastian's voice cracks slightly. Even after 64 years, James's death still hurts. The fifth was Elena. 1982. I was at Berkeley. She was a postdoc in the history department. Human. I didn't tell her I was a vampire. She knew I didn't age. I blamed it on good genes. We were together for 12 years. In 1994, she was diagnosed with cancer. Died within 6 months. She was 42. I had been alive for. Sebastian stops, composes himself. I was 293. I couldn't save her. Vampire blood doesn't cure cancer, despite what folklore says. I watched her die and I couldn't do anything. And since then, nothing. 42 years of being alone. Until you. Emma processes this. So out of 5 serious relationships, all of them ended badly. Catherine chose mortality over you. Antoine was toxic. Mary left because of the aging gap. James died because he wanted to be like you. Elena died despite everything you could do. Yes. And you think I'm going to be number 6 on that list? Another tragedy. I think the pattern is pretty clear, Emma. Or maybe you're cursed with a self-fulfilling prophecy. You expect your relationships to fail, so you sabotage them. I didn't sabotage Mary leaving or Elena dying. No. But you chose people where the ending was built in. The mortal ones aged out. The immortal one was wrong from the start. James wanted something you wouldn't. You've been setting yourself up for failure for 3 centuries. Sebastian stares at her. That's an uncomfortably accurate observation. I'm a history major. I'm trained to see patterns. Emma moves closer. Sebastian, I know you're scared. I know you think this is going to end like all the others. But what if it doesn't? What if we're different? How can we be different? The fundamentals are the same. You're mortal. I'm not. You'll age. I won't. You'll die. I'll continue. The ending is already written. Then let's not think about the ending. Let's just focus on now. I've lived 300 years. I can't help but think about the ending. It's all I see. Emma kisses him. Then let me do the thinking for both of us. Through March, their relationship deepens. Emma finishes her paper on Lucrezia Borgia. It's brilliant, publishable, likely to get her into any graduate program she applies to. Sebastian writes letters of recommendation that are glowing but don't mention their relationship. They're still secret, still hiding. Sebastian's colleagues don't know. Emma's friends don't know. They exist in a bubble, just the two of them, pretending that the age gap doesn't matter, that the moral complications don't exist, that they can have something normal despite everything being fundamentally abnormal. But the questions keep nagging at Sebastian. Is this right? Can someone who's lived 300 years have an equal relationship with someone who's lived 22? Is the power dynamic too imbalanced? Is he, despite his best intentions, using his centuries of experience to manipulate Emma into thinking this is okay? He doesn't have answers. Just guilt and love. And the terrible knowledge that this will probably end badly, but the inability to stop it anyway. In late March, Emma gets her graduate school acceptances. Stanford. Yale, Princeton, all fully funded. I got in everywhere, she tells Sebastian, ecstatic. They're in his apartment, celebrating with wine he can't drink but pretends to sip. I'm so proud of you. You earned this. I'm thinking Stanford. They have the best Renaissance studies program. Stanford is excellent. Emma's smile falters. But it's in California. Yes. Which means I'd have to leave New York. Leave Columbia. Leave. She doesn't say it, but the implication is clear. Leave you. Sebastian should encourage her to go. Should tell her that her education is more important than their relationship, that she should prioritize her future, that they can break up cleanly before either of them gets more hurt. But he says, there are other programs. Columbia has a PhD program. You could stay. Are you asking me to stay? I'm saying it's an option. Sebastian, be honest. Do you want me to stay or go? Honest. He should be honest. Should admit that her staying means they continue this relationship that's probably a terrible idea. Should admit that he's being selfish. That he's putting his desires above her future. I want you to stay, Sebastian admits. Selfishly, desperately, I want you to stay. But I also want what's best for you. And I don't know if that's me. What if I think you're what's best for me? Then you might be wrong. Emma, I'm 324 years old. I've made a lot of mistakes. This might be the biggest one yet. Or maybe it's not a mistake. Maybe it's just complicated. Everything is complicated when you're immortal and in love with someone mortal. Emma sets down her wine glass. Then make me immortal too. Turn me into a vampire. We've been dancing around this for months. If the problem is that I'm mortal and you're not, fix it. I already told you. I know what you told me. That vampirism is a curse. That I'd come to resent you. That immortality is horrible. But Sebastian, you've been alive for 3 centuries. Clearly some part of it must be worth it, or you would have found a way to die by now. I've tried. Multiple times. Vampires are notoriously difficult to kill. Have you tried very hard? Sebastian pauses. No, not really. Because despite everything, I'm a coward. Choose existing over non-existing, even when existing is painful. Then maybe existing with me for centuries wouldn't be so bad. Emma, you're 22. You don't know what you're asking for. I'm 22, not stupid. I understand that immortality means watching everyone I know die. I understand that it means centuries of potential loneliness. But it also means centuries with you. That's worth considering. You'd have to give up having children. Vampires can't reproduce. I don't know if I want children anyway. You'd have to give up a normal career. Can't stay in one place too long without people noticing you don't age. We could move every few decades. I'd be fine with that. You'd have to drink blood to survive. From blood banks. Ethical vampirism. I could manage. Sebastian looks at her, young, alive, mortal Emma, and imagines her as a vampire. Frozen at 22. Immortal. By his side for centuries. It's tempting. So tempting. But it's also a decision that can't be undone. Once she's turned, she's a vampire forever. If she comes to regret it, and James's death proves that transformations can go wrong, that immortality isn't always a gift. He'd have to live with that guilt for eternity. I need to think about this, Sebastian says. It's not a decision to make lightly. How long do you need? I don't know. Months. Maybe years. This is Emma, if I turn you and you end up hating it, hating me, regretting everything, I couldn't live with that. Not for centuries. What if I write you a letter, stating that I want this, that I'm making this choice freely, That I won't blame you if I regret it later. Would that help? No. Because regret doesn't care about consent. You could consent right now and still resent me in 100 years. Then we're at an impasse. Yes, we are. Emma stands. I need to go home. Think about things. Maybe you're right. Maybe this whole thing is a mistake. She leaves. Sebastian sits alone in his apartment, surrounded by 3 centuries of accumulated possessions, and thinks, I've lived 324 years. I've loved 5 people seriously. 4 of them ended in tragedy. 1 in slow poison. What makes me think Emma will be different? But he knows the answer. She won't be different. This will end badly. Either she'll age and leave him, or he'll turn her and she'll eventually resent him, or something worse will happen. The mathematics of their relationship don't work. 302 years of age difference. 15 times her lifespan. The power imbalance is impossible to ignore. And yet, Sebastian loves her. After 3 centuries of being careful, of maintaining boundaries, of never allowing himself to want what he shouldn't have, he loves Emma Rodriguez. 22 years old. Brilliant. Alive. Mortal. And he has no idea what to do about it. It's May. Emma has to make her decision about graduate school. Stanford, with its excellent program and full funding. Or Columbia, staying in New York, staying with Sebastian. They haven't spoken in 2 weeks. Not since their argument about transformation. Both of them needing space, needing to think. Sebastian sits in his office at Columbia, grading finals, when Emma appears at his door. Can I come in? She asks. Of course. She sits. They look at each other across his desk, the same desk where they've had dozens of conversations, where their relationship began, where everything got complicated. I made my decision, Emma says, about graduate school. And I'm going to Stanford. Sebastian feels his chest tighten. That's the right choice. Stanford is excellent. You'll thrive there. I'm going because I need to figure out who I am without you. I'm 22. I've spent the last year falling in love with a 300-year-old vampire who makes me question everything I thought I knew about ethics and power and relationships. And I need distance to figure out if what I feel is real or if I'm just caught up in something impossible. I understand. But Sebastian, I need you to promise me something. What? Wait for me. Give me 5 years. Let me finish my PhD, figure out my life, become someone independent of you. And then, if I still want transformation, if I still want immortality, if I still want to spend centuries with you, then turn me. Emma. 5 years. It's nothing to you. You've lived 324 years. What's 5 more? But to me, it's time to grow, to mature, to make sure I'm making this choice as an adult who knows herself, not as a 22-year-old who's infatuated with her professor. Sebastian considers. 5 years. It is nothing to him. He's endured longer spans of loneliness. But 5 years for Emma, she'll be 27. Still young, but more mature. More certain of who she is and what she wants. All right, Sebastian says. 5 years. You go to Stanford. Do your PhD. Become the brilliant historian I know you'll be. And if, in 5 years, you still want this, want immortality, want me, want a life that's fundamentally impossible, then we'll talk about transformation. Promise. I promise. Emma stands, moves around the desk, kisses him. I love you, even though it's complicated and probably wrong and maybe insane. I love you. I love you too, despite all the reasons I shouldn't. Good. Because I'm going to make you prove it. I'm going to become so impressive, so accomplished, so undeniably brilliant that dating me won't seem impossible anymore. The age gap will still be ridiculous, but at least I'll have earned the right to it. You've already earned it. Maybe. But I want to be sure. She leaves. Sebastian sits in his empty office and thinks. 5 years. I've waited. 3 centuries. 5 more years won't kill me. But it might. Because 5 years of hope is sometimes harder than 3 centuries of resignation. Emma Rodriguez completes her PhD at Stanford at age 27. Her dissertation on Renaissance women and political power wins awards. She gets job offers from 5 major universities. She turns them all down and returns to New York. Sebastian is waiting, still teaching at Columbia, still looking 32. Still immortal. They meet at the same restaurant where they had their first date 5 years ago. Emma is different now. Older, more confident, with 5 years of independent accomplishments. She's a doctor of philosophy. She's published 3 papers. He's no longer a student. You waited, Emma says. I promised. Do you still love me? Desperately. Good. Because I still want transformation. I've thought about it every day for 5 years. Talked to therapists, talked to other scholars, researched everything I could about vampire biology and psychology. And I'm sure. I want immortality. Want centuries with you. I want to become what you are. You understand what you're giving up? Yes. Normal life, children, aging naturally, an easy death. I understand. I choose vampirism anyway. Why? Because 302 years of age difference doesn't matter if we're both immortal. Because you're worth it. Because I've had 5 years to think, and I've realized that spending forever with you is better than spending a normal lifetime with anyone else. Sebastian reaches across the table, takes her hand. Then I'll turn you. Tonight, if you want. You've earned the right to make this choice. Not tonight. I want to prepare. Say goodbye to my family. Get my affairs in order. But soon. How soon? A month. Give me a month to be mortal one last time. Then make me immortal. They leave the restaurant. Walk through New York streets, the same streets Sebastian has walked for 300 years, the same streets Emma has walked for 27. In a month, they'll walk these streets together for centuries. And maybe, finally, the mathematics of their relationship will make sense. Not because the age gap has closed, it hasn't. He'll always be 302 years older. But because they'll finally be the same species. Both immortal. Both frozen in time. Both choosing an impossible forever together. Is it ethical? Probably not. The power imbalance will always exist. 3 centuries of experience versus 32 years, even if both of them are immortal. Is it right? Maybe not. Emma is giving up her humanity, her mortality, her chance at a normal life. But is it love? Yes. Complicated, impossible, age gap-defying love. But love nonetheless. And sometimes, love is enough. Even when it shouldn't be. Especially when it shouldn't be.